So, hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Michelle Thornton. I am an assistant professor in the School of Business and currently our Accessibility Fellow Coordinator across campus. I'm joined today by Kate Percival. Kate, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I am the Digital Accessibility Analyst here on campus, and I'll kind of explain what that is in a little bit.
Awesome. So we are really kind of excited to be celebrating this new initiative across campus. We sort of we're dreaming about what it might look like if we could kind of establish a way for everybody on campus, regardless if you're faculty, student, administration, to take some kind of time aside in January and put some collective brain power and good energy towards the idea of kind of really promoting accessibility and that climate and culture across campus. And what came of that is the idea of doing a 10-day challenge. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the purpose is of that. I want to tell you more about who's participating in it, and then I'll hand it off back to Kate, who will talk about how it's structured and what to expect over the next 10 days. We'll wrap up at the end with just kind of some things to think about, specific resources to focus on, and how, if you have not yet signed up to be part of the challenge, if you're just testing the waters in this session, we'll make sure that you know kind of what to do to sort of close that loop for yourselves. This is just a short session today, so we'll try and go through it pretty quickly. But then again, we are going to be available for questions at the end. So as I mentioned, the purpose is really, I see it as twofold. One, to make sure that we all kind of have the opportunity to learn more about accessibility and some skills related to that, as well as be exposed to all of the great resources on campus in this space. And also to try and have a little bit of fun with it. I think a lot of times we hear about something like accessibility initiatives, and it just sounds like it's going to be a lot of work and something that really feels overwhelming and hard and complicated, even if we all have the best intentions of wanting to do it. I get it that we are busy and like times are more complicated than ever when it comes to either studying or preparing for classes, right? So what our hope here is that we want to kind of give everybody a little kind of way to engage with materials around accessibility that works for you and make it as flexible and customizable as possible over the next 2 weeks. One thing that I really want to share to you is that we recognize not even really everybody necessarily gets what the idea of accessibility is. I was introduced to this cartoon early on in my accessibility journey, and it's one that's really stuck with me. And it's notable, right? Today, I live in Rochester. It's snowing here. This seems pretty timely for what we're thinking about. But I want you to envision a situation where we're all back on campus on Oswego. It's one of those really snowy days, right? And we've got somebody who's shoveling and clearing off the steps to get into one of our campus buildings. And you see here on the left side of the cartoon, we've got somebody in a wheelchair saying like, hey, can you please shovel off the ramp? And the person who's shoveling is essentially saying, I'll get to that. I'm going to do the stairs first. What the idea of accessibility does is it flips it on its head, which is that should that person have chosen to shovel the ramp first, basically everybody could be going up the ramp, both the person in the wheelchair as well as the other people. And then you could continue onto the steps. And then once those are cleared, then people could spread out. The idea is that accessibility is proactive and it really kind of levels the playing field for everyone and gives us this perspective that comes from more of an equitable or social justice perspective. So let's talk about who is participating. When we first thought of this idea, we weren't sure what the response was going to be, but we are so excited to share that we have had people from across campus come out to participate in this 10-day challenge. I've got here on my list that it's so far about 175, but Kate told me right at the beginning of the session that we're actually above 180 now, and that number continues to climb. So we're kind of anticipating that it was going to be Kate and Rebecca and I talking to a small group of people, but we are so excited to see that there has been a really groundswell of interest across campus. And we're really excited that all of the content that we've created for it is going to be available to such a large group of people. I think it's really important to note that all of those folks that are participating are coming from all different areas. We have one of the things I'm most excited about is just about a third of that group is students. So these are people that are just interested in the topic or maybe creating content for a club or activity that they're involved in. We also have staff, faculty, and administration, everybody really participating. That other group, interestingly, is people in many cases that are in multiple roles, right? That are both a student and staff here or something like that. So we have people participating from all the different departments and schools. And really, some people just responded that they're a SUNY Oswego person, right? And I get that. I think that that really indicates that this is a community-wide effort and the representation is pretty broad and diverse. And finally, in the preliminary survey that we asked everybody to fill out, one of the questions we asked you is why you've chosen to do this challenge. And I just wanted to share a couple of the responses because I think that they were really meaningful. They ranged everything from just the basic being interested in learning something new to the recognition that those individuals wanted to make sure that they were contributing to a more accessible culture for students on campus. But I also really like this idea that students were thinking about this in terms of their life beyond Oswego and how it might help them for internships or career opportunities in the future. And that I think was really exciting when you think about this as maybe a credential that as a student you can add to your resume or CV moving forward. And last thing, and this piece of it was really, I think, heartwarming to me. And that was the reason was just that it was important for us to do this together. And I loved that. That was really, it felt very supportive and kind of this idea that we're all in this together. And that that the main reason to do it is so that we could come together as one group and really push this initiative forward. So with that, let me pass it back to Kate and she can tell you a little bit more about the nuts and bolts.
All right, thanks, Michelle. And those responses are really great. I hadn't read through all the responses, so those were kind of eye-opening. So thanks for sharing that. So I'm the digital accessibility analyst on campus. You may have heard my name, you may have heard the title, you may not have. A basic breakdown of my job is there's two sides. There's remediation and education. I assess and remediate online course materials, and then I teach other people how to make accessible materials so I don't have to assess and remediate them as much. All jokes aside though, accessibility is easier to do at the onset of creating materials or revising materials rather than going back and trying to fix it after the fact. So that's why I make that little joke. So the structure for this challenge was brought on by the fact that in a typical semester, my course load for assessing and remediating materials used to be about 20. As of this past semester, fall of 2020, there were 200 courses on my list to assess and remediate, which, as you can imagine, is a very unsustainable course load. So we wanted to try to figure out a way to try to disseminate this information and help other people figure out how to do this accessibility stuff so that not so much of it fell on such a small group of people. So this plan is self-driven. I've had quite a number of people email me or contact me asking about like time commitments, and I get that's a big consideration. That's a big thing. The way that this is planned out is all, more or less, all self-driven. Participants will receive daily email prompts that should go out very first thing in the morning. So it'll be there in your inbox. You can look at it at any period throughout the day when is appropriate for you. There are no mandatory requirements, or we won't be collecting any materials at the end to prove whether you did it or whether you didn't do it or whether this is all like self-accountability here. The emails will contain tasks to basically review tutorials, a couple of links that you can look at, and then apply that information to your own personal documents. We're asking for about 30 minutes per day. And again, that's like just a generalization. If you review the tutorial and get the concept and put it in your document and it takes you 10 minutes, then great, you can move on and do other things. If you're really interested and you want to spend more time, you could spend an hour or two, or at least going through all of the tutorials and information and really diving in and learning. So again, it's all meant to be self-directed so that participants can kind of do things on their own terms, on their own time. However, that being said, we did plan it specifically for these 2 weeks to be in conjunction with the breakout sessions. So we have these synchronous skill sessions, this one included, to kind of help people along. Each day will focus on one particular topic. So the emails will focus on a particular topic, and then the sessions for that same day will revolve around that same topic. So if you look at the email first thing in the morning and you have some questions, or you don't get a chance to look at the email first thing in the morning, you decide to attend the session, hopefully we will kind of clear up a few things for you. We'll be able to explain a few things. We'll go over some of the information that's in the tutorials and on the accessibility website. So it's just kind of a reiteration of support of, you know, what you can do to kind of move yourself forward. I believe 2 of the days will have kind of what we call deeper dives. They go just a little bit beyond the basics, and we'll talk about a few more things, or a few things that are sort of the next level. Them being tables and lists. Tables especially can be quite challenging. And then math equations, which if you've ever dealt with math equations can be quite challenging. So those are our deeper dive sessions. And they are kind of focused around other topics that are related. If you don't feel like going into the deeper dives, if you're just sticking to the basics and you just want to get through that part, that's fine. If you've gotten through the basics and you want to do a little bit extra, then please join us for the deeper dive sessions, or read into the tutorials that focus on the deeper dives and advance yourself a little bit more that way. At the very end, again, it's 10 days, so you'll receive 10-day emails. We're skipping January 18th because of the holiday, so we're kind of cutting it and taking a break on that day for everybody. On the last day of the challenge, the last day or 2 of the challenge, there's like a reflection and feedback is the basic task of the day. And this is your self-accountability place, I guess. What have you gone through? What have you learned? How do you feel about the topics that were covered? Do you feel that you've gained any information since you started this journey at the beginning today or previously or whenever you're starting this journey? And we'd like for you to share some of that with us so we can kind of gauge the program itself, gauge the campus overall accessibility knowledge, and figure out kind of how to make a similar type of challenge better in the future, or what else to do to make things better to help people keep moving along that path. And then at the end of it, well, we are asking you to fill out another survey. We have a preliminary survey in the very beginning that asks, how do you feel? How comfortable are you with things? How knowledgeable are you? That type of thing. At the very end, we ask you a very similar survey, and that would help us and you kind of gauge, what have I learned? What have I gained? What's the benefit of doing this 10-day challenge? And then once that ending survey is completed, you will receive a certificate, badge, something that says, congratulations, you've completed this program. And it's, I'm losing my words here, but anyway, you'll receive an reward of some sort to say that you've completed this program. So it's, again, to answer the question about time commitment, it's all self-driven, and we invite you and we encourage you to come to as many of the sessions in the next 2 weeks that you possibly can. But if you can't, that's okay. We understand they are all being recorded. So at some point, probably not today, but at some point in the future, they will be available to go back and look at and review if you feel like doing that. So for resources, again, we're supporting the participants in as many ways as possible. And we don't want this to be, while it's all self-driven, we don't want to just throw you into the fire and say, okay, have fun, we'll see you at the end. From 2 to 3 p.m. every day for the next 2 weeks, basically, members of the work group on accessibility practices will be hosting sort of office hours or drop-in sessions. And this is an open question and answer. If you have specific questions about accessibility, if you just want to learn more, if you have a follow-up of something that you heard in a previous session or whatnot, we welcome you to come to these 2 o'clock meetings. And you can talk to various members of the work group and kind of pick our brains, ask whatever questions you feel necessary. If there's groups of people that have similar questions or similar requests, we've talked about maybe breaking out into some of the breakout rooms and having like smaller individualized sessions perhaps. So if you get stuck, if you're, you really can't figure something out, you can't find an answer on the accessibility website, again, we welcome you to come to these drop-in sessions and get a little more individualized one-on-one assistance. And as I just mentioned, the accessibility website is a fantastic place. I'm typing, so I can't speak and type at the same time, but a fantastic place to get information, resources, all of the tutorials and videos and whatnot that are being shared within the 10-day emails throughout the challenge are available on the website. And I did just put that link in the chat for everyone to look at. There's been a lot of time and effort spent on putting resources and materials into this website. If you can come up with a question that's not already on the website, we welcome that. A, so we can answer it, and B, maybe we can incorporate it into the website if it's something that we think would be, widely asked or beneficial for more than just you to find out. So that website is always there. It's always open. It's always up. So throughout the challenge and throughout anything, whether you do the challenge or not, beyond the challenge, if you have any questions, we hope that an answer will present itself on that website. And if not, again, you can reach out to the members of the work group. We have all the different groups that are associated with accessibility. And you can email myself, kathleen.percival@oswego.edu, or michelle.thornton@oswego.edu. And we are happy to either answer your question or direct it to the appropriate group or place that can answer your question. So speaking of questions.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Kate. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. I do want to make 2 more comments to kind of follow up on a few things. First, I'm going to put into the chat box the sign up link. So if you are somebody that was joining us for the kickoff and you had not yet signed up, go ahead and pop that in. If you registered and you registered twice, that's okay. We can figure out, make sure that you're only getting 1 set of emails. That's not a problem. If you are feeling swamped, overwhelmed, there's just too much going on, and you feel like starting the challenge is maybe too big of a time commitment, you're still welcome to drop into any of the sessions. That is no problem. And yes, if anybody just signed up, we will do another cycle of all of there's 2 emails that people have gotten so far. One would be the preparing for the challenge email, and the second one would be today's daily prompt. So we will do another cycle of those getting sent out this afternoon. So, Kate says right after the meeting, we'll catch up with everybody. So that registration does close today at 5. We will be ending the signups, but again, the sessions during winter breakouts are still available to everybody. I want to call out one session specifically, and that's the next one that is coming up today. And that is at 1 o'clock. And I'm not doing this just because I'm running it, but because I think it's a really good conversation-based session. I'm going to put into the chat box the article that we are encouraging everyone to read beforehand. It's super short, gives you a little bit of background. It is nothing sort of like heady or super wordy, but we're going to use that as the basis for our discussion at 1 o'clock. So if you're taking a break after this to have some lunch, pull it up on the computer on your phone, and you could probably get the basic gist of it before the 1 o'clock session if you're excited about that. And we're recording all the sessions. So I will stop speaking now. I know we're at 11:50, but I do want to, I know people have been asking some questions in the chat, but if anybody has any, we would like to go ahead and give you the opportunity to ask those now.
Michelle, my question is, what is the role of accessibility fellows and what is it exactly?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm so happy that you asked it. So the Fellows Program started in 2019 on campus. And the primary responsibility is for those fellows. Kate talked about her role as being kind of this remediation piece where we look backwards and we fix, courses that need fixing. The fellows are meant to be a little bit more proactive and learn the skills and techniques to prepare their courses in a way that is more accessible from the get-go. So the first piece is that sort of kind of additional time to build additional accessibility experts on campus, essentially. The second piece of it, though, is really much more of kind of an ambassadorial piece where the fellows participate in giving trainings through CELT. They also are kind of a liaison to their departments and act as a kind of a local resource for other faculty members, and as well as beyond campus. So the fellows are asked to kind of think about accessibility within their own disciplines as well, possibly do research, present materials on their work as a fellow. Thanks for the question, though. Great one. Oh, yeah. Rebecca and Casey have both popped additional information. The cycles usually, in terms of application, happen in the fall, and then the new fellowship runs a calendar year, so January through December. Any other questions this morning? All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. This is something that is really new to all of us. We're excited to have lots of participation, and we're hoping to see all of you in the sessions later on today. But if not, take the afternoon to do some things on your own, and we'll catch up with you at some point during the 10-day challenge. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.